Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the fire. Come on in. Get warm. I want you to look at this small thing in my hand. It's just a peanut, right? A simple, humble snack. You might eat these at a baseball game, or maybe spread them on toast with some jelly. But if we travel back to the early 20th century, this little nut, well, it saved an entire region of the United States from starvation. Today, on January 5th, we honor the memory of the man who unlocked the secrets of this little shell. A man who was born into slavery, kidnapped by bandits, and grew up to become one of the most famous scientists in the world. He was a man who could have been a millionaire. Thomas Edison offered him a fortune. Henry Ford was his best friend, but he chose a different path. He chose to serve. His name was George Washington Carver. And his story is not just about science. It is about the power of a gentle heart in a hard world. So, sit back. Let's open the history book to the page marked The Plant Doctor. Our story begins in a dark time, right in the middle of the Civil War around 1864 in Diamond Grove, Missouri. George was born a slave. He was a tiny, sickly baby, and when he was just an infant, tragedy struck. One night, a band of raiders, Confederate bushwhackers, stormed the farm. They kidnapped baby George and his mother Mary, disappearing into the cold night. His owner, a man named Moses Carver, sent a neighbor to find them. The neighbor found the baby, but his mother, she was gone forever. And here is a detail that breaks my heart every time I tell it. Moses Carver bought the baby back. Do you know what he paid? He traded one of his finest racehorses for the return of this sick, orphaned child. Think about that. A human life traded for a horse. Because George was a frail child, he couldn't work in the fields with the other men. He couldn't lift heavy bales of hay. So he stayed near the house. He helped with the laundry, the cooking, and the gardening. And that is where the magic started. Little George found peace in the woods. He spent hours staring at plants, touching the leaves, talking to the flowers. He noticed things no one else did. He saw how sunlight changed the color of a leaf. He saw which bugs helped the soil and which ones hurt it. The neighbors began to notice, too. If Mrs. Jones down the road had a rose bush that was dying, she wouldn't call a gardener. She'd call little George. He would look at the plant, maybe move it to the shade, maybe change the soil, and whisper to it. A week later, the roses would be blooming. They started calling him the Plant Doctor. He didn't have a family, and he didn't have freedom at first, but he had the forest. As he later said, I went to the woods to talk to God, and God spoke to me through the flowers. But George wanted more than just flowers. He wanted answers. He had a hunger for knowledge that was insatiable. After slavery ended, he left home at age 11 to go to school. Imagine that. An 11-year-old boy walking alone on the dusty roads of America, sleeping in barns, working for food, just to find a school that would teach a black child. He was rejected many times. There is a famous story where he was accepted into Highland College in Kansas by mail. He was so excited. He spent his savings on a train ticket. But when he arrived and the principal saw his face, saw the color of his skin, he was turned away at the door. We don't teach your kind here, they said. Can you imagine the pain? But George didn't become bitter. He just kept walking. Eventually, he became the first black student at Iowa State Agricultural College. He was brilliant. He was also an incredible artist. He painted flowers so realistically that his botany professors were stunned. They convinced him to stay and become a teacher. But destiny had a different plan. In 1896, he received a letter from Alabama. It was from another famous man, Booker T. Washington. The letter said simply, "I cannot offer you money, position, or fame. I offer you work, hard, hard work. Let down your bucket where you are." George packed his bags. He was going to the Tuskegee Institute. He was going to the South. When Carver arrived in Alabama, he saw a disaster. For 100 years, farmers in the South had planted only one thing: cotton. King cotton. Now, if you are a gardener, you know that plants need food from the soil, specifically nitrogen. Cotton is a greedy plant. It eats all the nitrogen. Year after year, the farmers planted cotton until the soil was dead. It was gray, dusty, and useless. Nothing would grow. The farmers were poor. They were starving. And then the enemy arrived. The boll weevil, a nasty little beetle that crossed the border from Mexico. It marched across the South like an army, destroying what little cotton was left. It was a catastrophe. The economy of the entire southern United States was collapsing. Farmers came to Carver crying, "Dr. Carver, what do we do? We are ruined." Carver looked at the dead soil. He went to his laboratory, which, by the way, he built himself from trash he found in alleyways because the school had no money for equipment. He used broken bottles for beakers and an old lantern for a Bunsen burner. He prayed, and he studied, and he found the answer. He told the farmers, "Stop planting cotton. You must plant peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans." The farmers were angry. "Peanuts?" they shouted. "We can't sell peanuts. That's food for pigs. Who will buy them?" Carver said, "Trust me, the peanut is a nitrogen fixer. It will heal the land. It will put the life back into the dirt." Reluctantly, they listened. They planted peanuts, and it worked. The soil became rich and dark again. The peanuts grew like crazy. There were mountains of peanuts. But now they had a new problem. There were too many peanuts. Nobody wanted to buy them. The farmers were angry again. "Dr. Carver, we have barns full of peanuts and no money." Carver went back to his lab. He locked the door. He said, "Creator, why did you make the peanut?" And he began to work. This, my friends, is the part that is truly unbelievable. This is where George Washington Carver became a wizard. He took the peanut apart. He separated the fats, the oils, the gums, the sugars. He heated them, mixed them, pressurized them. He worked day and night. You asked for details? Let me tell you what this man created from a simple pig food nut. First, food. Of course, there was peanut butter, though he didn't invent it, he improved it. But he also made peanut milk, which saved the lives of babies in the Congo who couldn't get cow's milk. He made peanut flour for bread. He made cooking oils, salad sauces, and even a type of Worcestershire sauce. He made instant coffee from peanuts. But that was just the beginning. He moved to household products. He found that peanut oil could be used to make fine soap. He created face creams, lotions, and shaving cream. He made axle grease for cars. He made bleach, paper, and ink. Then he went industrial. From the peanut shells, he made wallboard for building houses. He made synthetic marble. He created 30 different colors of dye for clothes, from black to bright orange, all from the peanut skin. He even made a type of gasoline from peanuts, years before we talked about biofuels. And let's not forget the sweet potato. He didn't just stop at peanuts. He developed 118 products from sweet potatoes, including postage stamp glue, you know, the stuff you lick, synthetic rubber, and vinegar. In total, he discovered over 300 uses for the peanut hull and 118 for the sweet potato. He single-handedly created a market for these crops. Suddenly, the farmers weren't poor anymore. The South was saved not by cotton, but by the goober pea. Now you might think, Pop, this man must have been the richest guy in America. And that brings us to the most important part of his character. In 1921, the peanut farmers sent Carver to Washington, D.C. to speak to Congress. They wanted a tariff, a tax, to protect American peanuts. When Carver arrived, the congressmen laughed at him. He was an old black man in a shiny, worn-out suit. They gave him 10 minutes to speak. Carver opened his bag. He started pulling out bottles, creams, oils, dyes, candies. He told them jokes. He explained the chemistry. The congressmen were mesmerized. 10 minutes passed. The chairman shouted, "Go on, Dr. Carver. Take as much time as you need." He spoke for an hour. At the end, the entire room stood up and cheered. He got the tariff passed. He became a national hero. Then came the offers. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, was amazed by Carver. He offered Carver a job at his laboratory in New Jersey. The salary? Over $100,000 a year. In the 1930s, that was like millions of dollars today. Carver sent a polite letter back. He said, "No," he said, "if I have all that money, I might forget my people. I can be of no service if I am swimming in money." He never patented most of his inventions. Did you know that? He could have owned the patents for peanut oil, for the dyes, for the soaps. He could have been a billionaire. When asked why he didn't get a patent, he famously said, "God gave it to me. How can I sell it to someone else?" He believed that his ideas were a gift from nature and they belonged to everyone. He had a famous friendship with Henry Ford, the car maker. They were an odd couple, the wealthy industrialist and the humble professor. But they were best friends. They would spend weeks together in the woods, looking for wild greens to eat. Carver would make weed sandwiches, and Ford loved them. Ford even built an elevator in Carver's dorm because Carver was getting too old to climb the stairs. George Washington. Carver passed away on this day, January 5th, 1943. He was 78 years old. He died having very little money in his bank account, but he left America a treasure chest of knowledge. He taught us that we don't need to look far to find solutions. Sometimes the answer to our biggest problems is right under our feet, in a handful of dirt or in a tiny peanut shell. He taught us that nature is not something to be conquered, but something to be listened to. And most importantly, he taught us that true success isn't about how much you keep for yourself. It's about how much you give away. On his grave, it is written. He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world. What a life! What a man! Let's see if you were paying attention. Here's your quick brain prime quiz. Question 1. What chemical element did peanuts put back into the damaged soil? Question 2. What animal was traded to get baby George back from the kidnappers? Question 3. Name one non-food item Carver created from peanuts. Look at you. You got 'em all? My goodness, you are as sharp as a tack today. You make this old man very proud. If you enjoyed our little chat, please subscribe and join the family. There is always a warm blanket and a hot cup of tea waiting for you right here. Don't be a stranger. I'll see you in the next story. Stay curious, my friends. Bye-bye.